This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. In Texas today, authorities are continuing their investigation into why a 43-year-old man opened fire in a Fort Worth area church, killing 2 members of the congregation. It was the second of 2 attacks on a religious gathering in the U.S. in less than 24 hours. Now, federal prosecutors have filed hate crimes charges against the suspect in the attack on a Hanukkah celebration in New York Saturday night. Heather Sells brings us the story.
The members of West Freeway Church of Christ gathered together Monday night to mourn the 2 members who lost their lives Sunday morning after a gunman began shooting in the sanctuary during communion. 67-year-old Richard White, a member of the church's security team, and 64-year-old Tony Wallace, a church deacon, were both killed as Wallace's grandson watched.
Gunman stood up and turned around to him, so probably like 3 feet away from my papa.
I lost 2 great men, friends, men that I consider putting above myself.
Jack Wilson helped to form the church's security team 18 months ago. The firearms instructor took out the shooter with a single shot to the head.
I don't feel like I'm a hero. I was doing what I needed to do to protect the people of the congregation.
Texas authorities are praising a new state law that affirms the right of licensed handgun holders to carry a weapon in places of worship.
We can't prevent every crazy person from pulling a gun, but we can be prepared like this church was.
President Trump also praised the law, which was passed after the 2017 massacre at First Baptist in Sutherland Springs. Trump tweeted lives were saved by these heroes and Texas laws allowing them to carry arms. Authorities have now identified the suspect as 43-year-old Keith Thomas Kinnanen of River Oaks, Texas, not far from the church. He had a criminal history, and his former wife sought a protective order in 2012, calling him a violent, paranoid person. Pastor Farmer said he had visited with him and had given him food. Authorities in New York are also trying to understand the motive of a suspect in a Hanukkah attack north of New York City. On Monday, they charged 37-year-old Grafton Thomas with federal hate crimes after he allegedly stabbed a group celebrating Hanukkah in a home. Investigators have found Thomas's handwritten journals, which contain anti-Semitic references, as well as his internet searches, which include information about Hitler and area synagogues. His family says he has a history of mental illness. The weekend attack was the latest in a surge of violence targeting Jews in the region in recent weeks. Heather Sells, CBN News.
In other news, Dallas pastor Tony Evans and his 4 children are mourning the passing of wife and mother Lois Evans. The 70-year-old slipped into eternity Monday morning after battling a rare form of cancer. Tony Evans wrote, "Just before the sun came up this morning, the love of my life, Lois Irene Evans, transitioned from earth and watched her first sunrise from heaven." Evans, the senior pastor at Oak Cliff Fellowship Church in Dallas, wrote that his wife was surrounded by family when she passed away. All 4 of their children are involved in ministry, including Bible study teacher Priscilla Shirer. A major winter storm is threatening New Year's Eve celebrations across more than a dozen states. The storm has created blizzard conditions in parts of Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The National Weather Service issued a winter storm warning in northeastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Heavy snow and gusty winds creating difficult travel conditions for holiday travelers. In recent days, it has shut down highways, caused hundreds of accidents, and is responsible for at least 2 deaths. Despite nasty weather in some parts of the U.S., cities across the country are prepping for big New Year's Eve celebrations. In New York, people start lining up more than 12 hours ahead of time for the Times Square ball drop. New York police are rolling out every kind of security, and officers everywhere will be on the lookout for drunk drivers.
We'll have intelligence officers out there, as well as patrol officers, emergency service units, and then as well with our federal and state local partners.
On the New Year's Day holiday, 40% of individuals who were killed died in crashes where at least one driver was under the influence of alcohol.
Across the globe, the Pacific islands of Tonga and Kiribati are the first to ring in the new year. The holiday season may be ending, but health officials say flu season is just beginning. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says all regions of the country are seeing elevated levels of flu-like illness. The CDC estimates that so far this season there have been at least 4.6 million flu illnesses, with 39,000 hospitalizations and more than 2,000 deaths from flu. The CDC found at the end of the month that high levels of the flu were found in more than 24 states from Arizona to Virginia. More than 170 million doses of the flu vaccine have been distributed so far. The CDC recommends everyone 6 months and older should get vaccinated. Dozens of angry Iraqis broke into the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad today after smashing a main door and setting fire to a reception area. Hundreds of the Iraqis had already smashed security cameras on the wall around the embassy. The protesters shouted, "Down, down, USA," as they tried to push into the embassy grounds. The Iraqi protesters support a militia backed by Iran. The U.S. launched airstrikes this week that killed 25 members of that militia. The U.S. blamed the militia for launching a rocket attack Friday on a military compound that killed an American contractor. President Trump blames Iran for the breach of the embassy. He's calling on Iraq to protect it. Meanwhile, in Turkey, authorities detained at least 124 people suspected of links to the Islamic State group. According to the state-run news agency, Turkish police conducted simultaneous pre-dawn raids, and they were conducted in a joint operation by anti-terrorism police and the National Intelligence Agency. Suspects were arrested in the capital of Ankara, Istanbul, Bursa, and several other cities. Officials said the ISIS suspects apprehended were from Iraq, Syria, and Morocco. 2019 was a year in which we saw both tensions rising and new alliances being formed. But what lies ahead for Israel and the Middle East in 2020? CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl takes a look.
One of the first challenges Israel will face in 2020 is the upcoming general election on March 2nd, the third time Israelis will go to the polls in less than 12 months. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu won the Likud party primaries, setting the stage for another intense contest. Voter fatigue and anger are issues, but the main thing is nothing has really changed politically since the last two elections. Netanyahu could shift the dynamics with a push to annex the strategic Jordan Valley. He may also use his indictment to mobilize the right against the media and Israel's judicial system. Another story that's continuing to unfold concerns Iran. With the regime under increasing pressure from sanctions, it's likely to activate its proxies to move against Israel and others in the region. Another development is Iran's warming relations with Russia and China. Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Aviv Kochavi said Israel is preparing for what he called a limited confrontation with Iran. Though he didn't say when, Kochavi also predicted Israel's next war would be intense and said he couldn't promise it would be short. He says Israelis will need resilience. But even with the regional threat of Iran growing, we're also seeing the opening up of ties between Israel and countries such as Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. Sadly, though, it's likely we're going to see anti-Semitism continue to rear its ugly head in Europe and the United States. Israeli politician Avigdor Lieberman says immigration to Israel is the main solution. We also look forward to new technological advances and archaeological discoveries, and of course, we can pray that God will show up in all of these situations. I'm Julie Stahl, wishing you a happy and blessed New Year from CBN News in Jerusalem.
Thank you, Julie. Coming up, this past year was a big one for pro-life activists and their fight to protect the unborn. After the break, we'll take a look at what abortion battles are ahead in 2020. But first, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
No super balls, man. Come with...
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
Welcome back to NewsWatch. It's been a big year for pro-life activists. From heartbeat bills to restricting funding, conservatives and pro-life groups have worked across the nation to create stricter laws on abortions and standards in clinics. Will the victories continue? Joining us now to share what we can expect in 2020 is constitutional law attorney Jenna Ellis. Jenna, to start, let's take a look back at this past year. In your opinion, how did pro-life rights make out in 2019?
2019 was such an excellent year. 5 states passed laws that either restricted abortion or banned it entirely, which is really encouraging as we move forward in 2020 to see state legislatures taking the lead by making sure that they are passing pro-life legislation that now can be challenged in state and federal courts as we see the federal bench increase to conservative judges, as President Trump has now appointed 187 conservative judges to the federal bench throughout all of the federal circuits. And so as we move forward into 2020, this is going to be a really big election year, of course, but it'll also be a really big year legislatively for pro-life, as well as state legislatures can continue the fetal heartbeat legislation and move forward to protect life all across America.
What can we expect from pro-life advocates and abortion activists as we begin the new year? Talk more about that.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be a big issue that will surface, especially as the 2020 election moves closer, especially as we look at the statewide election, because that's where the initial battleground will be. And so for the states that still have Democratic controlled legislatures, that's going to be the fight heading into 2020, that pro-life activists and those of us who understand that all human beings are made in the image of God and that we have to protect and preserve life at every stage, beginning at conception. We need to move forward and make sure that people understand to vote life and to vote conservative and particularly Republican down ticket, because in the states, this matters to make sure that we have conservative control over government to make sure that we are protecting and preserving life and giving the opportunity and the best opportunity for these these fetal heartbeat bills and others that protect life at all stages can pass through the legislatures of every state so that we can make sure, again, to protect and preserve life in most states across America.
Jenna, are there any cases in particular to keep an eye on?
Yes, especially moving forward. Again, I think that the court is not only going to be addressing one case in particular that deals with a Louisiana law that is protecting life and making sure to challenge specifically the undue burden test of Roe versus Wade. The Supreme Court has already agreed to take that case up. It's going to be decided before the end of term this coming June. But there are going to be other significant challenges in the Supreme Court, and whether it's this year or moving ahead into this new decade, then the Supreme Court is definitely going to take a look at Roe versus Wade. And it's my hope, and I know the hope of Christians across America, that Roe versus Wade and that very unconstitutional rule is going to be overturned at the highest court. And I think now more than ever, given that we do have a conservative majority on the bench, that is ripe to be heard at the court and to finally make that rule, that very unconstitutional rule, overturned.
Let's talk more about 2020 being an election year. What can we expect from Republican candidates versus Democratic candidates? Break it down a little bit more for us as far as the abortion issue. What can we expect to hear from them, including the presidential candidates?
Absolutely. Well, if you look at, of course, the federal candidates, President Trump has stood for pro-life. He says very prolifically that all human beings are made in the image of God and that we need to protect and preserve that across the nation fundamentally. And of course, the Democratic candidates are completely pro-abortion at any stage. They are for abortion on demand. They view that as a woman's right to choose, which of course we know as Christians that's fundamentally unconstitutional, because we recognize that the government is obligated to preserve and protect life at all stages. That is a constitutional mandate. And so the difference between conservative Republican candidates and the liberal Democratic candidates on this specific issue is that conservatives stand for pro-life. And so it's not only incumbent upon every Christian, I believe, to vote their conscience and to vote life. And the only federal candidate that is protecting life is President Trump. And that is a single issue that we absolutely can vote for on the federal level. But we need to make sure in every state that we know what candidates for the legislature and for the governor's offices where those are open, that we understand where their position is on the abortion issue, and we make sure that we are voting to preserve and protect life everywhere that we can, and that we as Christians exercise our civic duty responsibly.
All right, constitutional law attorney Jenna Ellis, thank you for your time, Jenna. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
You too. Still ahead, how a Christian musician in Budapest is glorifying God.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN NewsWatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today.
Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening.
My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
Each of us is designed in our own unique way to glorify God. Some find a way even when society stacks the odds against them. Dale Hurd has the story of a remarkable Christian musician from Budapest, Hungary.
As a member of Hungary's Roma or Gypsy community, Erden Rotz has known discrimination and obstacles. But his tremendous musical ability has taken him from one of the lowest rungs in Hungarian society to the pinnacle of European classical music as the principal double bass for the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. Born into a family of talented musicians, Erden's career path was already set before him at birth.
When I was born, my father brought a tiny musical instrument to the hospital to see if I would take it into my hands. From my childhood, music was the most important thing in our family. Music surrounded us.
Erden began to play the double bass at age 9. By 13, he had performed his first public solo concert at the Music Academy of Budapest. He was a teenager when his cousin shared with him the message of salvation. At first, he resisted.
I was not interested in what they were talking about, but my cousin started to pray. And when I started to pray too, I started crying, and I couldn't stop crying.
And when he went to a church service and the altar call was given, he and his mother went forward. He asked us if he could play one of his favorite gospel songs for us, "You Are My Hiding Place." The Romani have lived in Hungary for centuries, having migrated from northern India. They're the largest minority in Hungary. They were victims of the Holocaust and still face discrimination across Europe.
The Roma people should not be excluded from society, but included, so that we can share with them the love of God, so that they can be saved.
And Erden says God has given the Romani special gifts.
The Roma people have a special talent for arts and dance and music, and especially for improvised music. This is something that can't be taught. We are born with it.
His career has taken him all over the world, but he says one of his favorite cities is New York, where at Carnegie Hall he has met and worked with such names as Yo-Yo Ma and Michael Tilson Thomas. Erden says when he plays, he offers his music as a sacrifice to God, and that makes a real difference in his performance.
When I go on stage, I tell the Lord, I want to serve you with my music. Let it be a great sacrifice to you. And when an artist plays like this, it's a special experience for the audience.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Budapest.
Beautiful, powerful testimony. Well, after the break, a stunning outcome for a 2019 College Football National Championship playoff game. How one football star is giving glory to God.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians are
Christians in Iran are routinely arrested.
Nepali Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
It has the power to influence weight loss, boost your immune system, and improve brain function.
We've seen an explosion of data on the role of the gut microbiome in health.
The free Build a Better Gut booklet reveals the latest information about the gut microbiome. You'll discover how your gut affects the rest of your health.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease.
Learn how to build a stronger, healthier gut.
The microbiome, if it's in good composition, are really protecting us all the time from more invasive things.
Get the Build a Better Gut booklet, free from the Christian Broadcasting Network. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut.
You need to make sure that your microbes are working with you, not against you.
And if you order online, you'll get immediate access to the Build a Better Gut series, a digital copy of the booklet, and related bonus material. Build a Better Gut today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com/buildabettergut for your free copy.
Clemson Tigers' Trevor Lawrence is giving God all the glory for their win over Ohio State in a Christmas weekend national championship playoff game. The game itself is still being talked about by fans of college football after it started out with a quick Ohio State lead of 16-0 earlier in the first half. Ultimately, the Tigers scored with just under 3 minutes to go in the second quarter, and then they managed to keep Ohio State from scoring and got the ball back. That's when Lawrence ran 67 yards for a second touchdown, leaving the score 16-14 at the half. Lawrence is very outspoken about his faith and says even though they did not play great and didn't look pretty, they found a way to get it done. He told an ESPN reporter, "I have Ephesians 3:20, and it says God can do immeasurably more than any of us can because of Him within us." And that's just so true. I mean, all of us, me, what we did tonight, it ain't us. It's about this program and who we are. You can find the full story at CBNNews.com, including how Trevor came to Christ after starting college at Clemson. And that's it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with CBNNews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Thanks again for watching and have a blessed new year.